I am fully aware that I'm going to catch so much heat from JJK fans, but it has to be talked about. Mahito is a straight up clone of Luffy.
What did you say?
No, I'm not going to go that far, but there is a case to be made about this statement, which traces all the way back to the Thriller Bark arc. So let's talk about Luffy's Devil Fruit and how Oda hasn't wholly shown us its true nature. Because if you thought we knew everything about the Gum Gum Fruit, aka the human fruit model Sun God Nika in chapter 1045, trust me, we have barely scratched the surface. Something that completely flew out of my radar was that according to Road to Laugh Tale Volume 3, which is part of a series of supplementary material released by Oda and Shonen Jump during a month-long break between chapters 1053 and 1054, hinted that Luffy's true power goes beyond just having a rubbery body. It's something far deeper. Reminds me of discussions within the fandom. These discussions often attempt to reconcile the connection between rubber and the sun, especially since we are discussing the Sun God Nika Devil Fruit. And then it suddenly hit me. Recently, I shared a theory about what the One Piece could be, focusing on the concept of souls within the One Piece world. I won't delve too deeply into the details covered in the video, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Essentially, I propose that souls are represented as floating fireballs, likely inspired by the Japanese folklore of Hitozama. I also suggested that the Mother Flame Vegapunk created might be a specific individual's soul. The key would be to combine the One Piece, which I will hint is a part of Joe Boy himself, with the Mother Flame or any soul to create the undying flame that Vegapunk has been trying to replicate. In other words, it could be his version of the sun, designed to provide free energy worldwide. Considering everything mentioned about souls and their potential to become akin to the sun, it follows that the characteristics of the Sun God Nika Devil Fruit likely originate from the user's soul. Additionally, the user's soul may be the fundamental reason their body transforms into rubber in the first place. Now, this is the part of the video JJK fans are going to get a kick out of this, and by that I mean they'll probably want to kick my ass after watching this video. Regardless, this is where the connection to Mahito unfolds. As I mentioned at the start of this video, everything circles back to the Thriller Bark arc. This is where we first meet the former warlord Gecko Moria and learn about his Devil Fruit, the Shadow Fruit, which lets him entirely control the shadows of living things. One of Moria's standout abilities is the Shadow Revolution technique, which allows him to alter the shape of someone's shadow. And when he does this, the person's body changes too. A striking example is with Oars. This happens because Moria's stolen shadows acts as the souls of the zombies he creates. Brook even mentions in chapter 455 that a shadow functions as sort of a secondary soul, mirroring its master's movements. And all this information feels like foreshadowing from Oda. It seems that he might be hinting that the true nature of the human fruit model Nika lies in its power to reshape the user's soul, which alters their body like rubber. In essence, the human fruit model Nika could be seen as a version of Mahito's idle transfiguration technique. If you're not up on Jujutsu Kaisen and the system of cursed energy and techniques, don't worry. I will give you a quick rundown of Mahito's techniques so you'll better understand why I see a connection between his power and the Nika Devil Fruit. Idle transfiguration lets the user reshape their own soul or the soul of anyone they make physical contact with. And since the body's form follows the shape of the soul, warping the soul naturally alters the body too. So, with just a touch, someone wielding idle transfiguration can twist and distort a person's body into a gross, disgusting looking shape by manipulating their soul. Now, how does this relate to Luffy's Devil Fruit? The Nika Devil Fruit grants his body rubber-like properties, letting him stretch, bounce, bend, twist, and inflate any part of himself as he wishes. Luffy's abilities often reflect different forms and ideas like firearms, fireworks, bells, balloons, etc., allowing him to adapt his body to a variety of creative shapes. In his Gear 5th Awakening, Luffy gains even more control, giving him the power to reshape his rubbery body with more freedom and the ability to alter others' bodies and the environment around him in whatever creative way he can imagine. In this sense, Luffy's power with the human fruit mirror the essence of Mahito's idle transfiguration. Both techniques aren't just about altering one's own form, they extend to reshaping others, bringing an imaginative, nearly limitless dimension to their abilities. And the difference is that Luffy's powers can affect the environment on top of living things, unlike Mahito's abilities as far as I understand. Throughout One Piece, Oda has subtly hinted that even inanimate objects may possess a spirit or essence of their own, which might give us a clue about how Luffy's awakening enables him to transform the environment into rubber. And one notable example is the Kobaltman, a spirit that appears on ships, and we see this with the Going Merry's Kobaltman during the Skypiea arc, and its presence lingers even into the Water 7 saga, suggesting that objects in One Piece have a life of their own, at least to some extent. The voices of all things is another key concept. It's a form of communication that lets certain humans understand messages from objects like poneglyphs or animals that don't communicate in human language. Additionally, there is the breath of all things, a concept that Zoro reveals in his fight against Mr. One. Here, Zoro senses the breath of rocks that are about to crush him, allowing him to react just in time, and he also senses the breath of a sword buried under the rubble, making it easier for him to locate it. These clues suggest a consistent theme. Inanimate objects can have some form of awareness or life, and this also may explain how objects can consume devil fruits, a phenomenon Dr. Vegapunk uncovered, and even he and Kuma once talk about souls, which might have sparked Vegapunk's realization that, hey, maybe a gun could turn into a dog. Neat. This could even explain how Luffy managed to summon a pair of goggles, a paint can, and a paintbrush, which, let's be honest, was a bit of a stretch after accepting the fact that Luffy uses Toon Force, but now it makes even more sense if we think of it as Luffy manipulating parts of his own soul, or at least fragments of it. Perhaps he took a piece of his hair, like when he made those goggles, and reshaped them so extremely that they transformed into something entirely different, like a paint can and brush. Oda seems to have drawn this idea of objects carrying spirits from Shinto beliefs, where Kami represents a divine essence in everything, objects, places, or creatures. So looking at it from this perspective, it starts to make more sense how Luffy could use his powers to manipulate the environment, effectively turning it into his own McDonald's play place. And while we're on the subject of souls, it would be remiss not to mention a certain motherly figure who embodies this theme in a rather unforgettable way. So now that we've broken down the idea that Luffy's devil fruit power isn't just about his body being made of rubber, but actually about his control over the shape of his soul, shaping his body's rubber-like properties, you might be wondering, as I did while developing this theory, what makes Luffy's devil fruit different from Big Mom's soul fruit? Well, I'm glad you asked, person who didn't ask me. I kind of asked myself. I'm a person, right? Both Luffy and Big Mom wield powers that connect to the idea of souls, but their abilities reflect very different approaches and intentions. Luffy's devil fruit amplifies his own spirit and energy, allowing his joyful personality to influence his surroundings. His power expresses freedom. Luffy's soul is so lively that it seems to bend reality itself, making everything around him as flexible and playful as he is. When he uses his abilities, his environment stretches and bounces to match his imaginative energy, but it doesn't actually come to life or follow his orders. On the other hand, Big Mom's soul fruit is all about direct control. Her powers let her take pieces of other people's souls and place them into objects or animals, turning them into homies, sentient beings that act under her command. And when she gives these objects a soul fragment, they don't just change shape or flexibility, they gain personalities and follow her every command. Big Mom intends to dominate, using her ability to control other spirits and create loyal followers. So when we look at it this way, Luffy's power is about spreading joy and freedom, resonating with the world around him in a way that mirrors the legend of Sun God Nika. Meanwhile, Big Mom's abilities represent control and dominance, taking pieces of other spirits to create subjects bound by her command. By the way, here's a little fun thing that works on so many levels. Soul can be treated as a homonym for the Spanish word sol, which means sun. Soul fruit. Sun fruit. Sun God Nika. Oda will never escape the wordplay allegations. They are practically encoded in his DNA. The pun piece is real, y'all. Thinking about Luffy's devil fruit reminds me of chapter 1130, where we finally meet Prince Loki, and what did you know it, he's calling himself the Sun God, claiming it's all because of his legendary Elbaf devil fruit that he killed his own father to get his hands on, which I go over in my latest video on my channel. And if you haven't seen it, check it out, as I explore Loki's twisted backstory and why he's such a complicated character. Who is Loki? Why is Loki? How is Loki?